Hello dreamers, welcome back to the Dreamweavers channel. Here is Beatrice and I'm super excited to have you here with me today. I want us to get ready for a very uplifting conversation that will both inspire you and engage you. We'll be talking with someone who started as a hard-working student and grew into a successful entrepreneur and leader. He will share how his early life, education and experiences shaped his journey and how he overcame challenges along the way. From leading a major consultancy to guiding a youth organization across Africa and managing a well-known clinic, his story is full of amazing achievements. So my dear ones, please join me as we welcome John Affaidzi Appiah, CEO at A-League Consult, President of the African Chamber for Youth Development and Managing Director of Koforidua Clinic.
I was blessed by God. My dad was a medical doctor. My mom, a teacher. I was born into a good environment. By the grace of God, I was blessed to have very good education, right from my kindergarten days through the primary school days, to JSS, to the SS, and then to university as well. And then I think that one of the significant things for me was that I noticed that very early, I was always collecting prizes when it comes to the speech and prize giving day. That gave me a signal that there's a lot to come for me in terms of what God had in store. At upper primary levels, almost for every single class, I was appointed as a class prefect. I noticed that I was appointed as a class prefect. My students or my colleagues will accept me. Then when I reached the JSS, I was also given the opportunity to vie for the school prefect role. My first elected position, I did a good presentation and the campaigning went well. So I elected school prefect in my final year. Then I moved to Pope John's. I was a science student. Did well. My second year, I represented my house in the science and maths quiz. For every I participated in trying to gather the team for the house. I always talked all the time. And I happened to be part of the final people that met with the other houses. I was selected to be part of the science maths quiz team to represent the school. I was the scripture union president. The time came for the National Leadership Conference, which those days was held in Presec. And it was just around that same time the team for the main National Science and Maths Quiz competition. So I had to actually make a decision whether to stay with the Scripture Union and represent or lead the delegation for Pope John's to be part of the National Leadership Conference, or maybe go with the team to the National Science and Maths Quiz. Interestingly, at that time, the patron for the Scripture Union happened to also be the teacher leading the Science and Maths Quiz preparation in the science lab. I remember one afternoon, I told him what the dilemma was for me. And it was like, John, anything you decide to do, I am okay with it. Representing the SU at the National Leadership Conference, you're obviously going to develop your leadership skills. You're going to represent the school, make a good impression. If you go on that tangent, I don't have a problem. If you go on the Science and Maths Quiz tangent, we don't have a problem. So I decided to go for the National Leadership Conference and let go of the National Science and Maths Quiz agenda. Interestingly, that year, Pope John's won the National Science and Maths Quiz. My dad was a doctor. My elder sister was in the medical school. I was a junior to my dad. I did science, applied for medical school, but I wasn't picked, crying my eyes out. Someone suggested, you're a student, you also speak well. I started with some primary school before teaching science in Form 3 and mathematics in Form 1 class. Now, during the period of teaching, staying home 1 year without going to, I realized that my passion and my energy was not necessarily in the medical field. So the next forms were released, I applied to do social sciences. I applied to do political science, sociology, philosophy, and history, level 100, University of Ghana. I'm sure you have a bit of understanding around how that worked at that time. So yes, drew my attention away from the medical sciences into the arts, and it's something that I've never regretted. I did my 4-year degree course in Legon. After school, I worked a while. Then I went back to do my master's in communication studies, and I went back into the working field. This is a bit about my background.
Thank you, John, for sharing. Education played a crucial role in shaping your future. How did your studies in communication influence your career and leadership style?
Great. I have heard a lot of people sometimes make the allusion to the fact that, well, education is not really necessary. And
tell me more about that.
The notion is that, oh, if you get something doing for yourself, which is profitable, you can forget school. The bottom line is to make money. Education is important. If you get education for the first degree, second degree, PhD, I encourage people to really invest into education, because you see, it's a tool in your hand and makes a big difference. The course you do in school should not necessarily dictate your career path should be. Because you are aware of people who are medical doctors but have now go for medicine, and they're doing something else where they find a lot of pleasure and excitement and money. And therefore, it is not always the case that once, for example, you did BSc finance or administration, you have to necessarily be an administrator, or you did an engineering course. So as for you, either you become an engineer or you die. Not at all. But the point is that your education gives you that ground or that foundation, thinking abilities, help you analyze matters. It will allow you to be able to put your intellect to good use. So you don't go to school just to get education or a certificate. You are building a network of people as well. Because if you sit in a particular person, the person becomes part of your network. You are exposed to lecturers who can later on in life become very influential in your career. Some of them are consultants, and they may refer a job offer or a contract to you. Some classmates rise through the ranks to very powerful, prominent position that by virtue of you sitting in the class with them or being a part of the class, you access certain things that under normal circumstances you may not even get. All right. So I think that my education played a vital part. It helped build my confidence. I developed skills, my intellectual capacity. And whilst I was school, I also just lectured to my room. I was also involved in other activities on campus. Very important. I remember at the point I was part of a group called the CAD on Legon campus. It was more of the arts and dancing and drama. I wasn't just in school chewing and pouring and going to the library. Yes, in other extracurricular activities, because all these things builds your capacity, it builds your mindset, and then of course it contributes significantly to what it is you can do with yourself. So let me give a very good example. I remember when I finished my master's degree course, the first place I started working at Joy FM, on the Super Morning Show as a producer. We had lots of conversations and engagements, and some management members of the whole multimedia group were of the opinion that some presenters will have to go for acting classes or go into the drama school, because presentation is not just about reading. That's the difference between news anchors and the presenters. The news anchors are like essentially flat. They are reading the news to you, no emotions. But if you are hosting a show which has politics, religion, and fun and excitement, and you are playing, you should nod and tap along. Affects your voice, because you are tapping from your extracurricular activities, develop skills that place you ahead. My education played a critical part, and I'm convinced that whatever I'm doing now, I owe it to my education. I did science in senior secondary school. My nickname was Lord Bio, because I was very good in biology. I was top of the biology class.
I see.
So I didn't use the science in the university and my master's. Currently, I am running the clinic my dad started. The science I did in school comes up in conversations in my work that has helped me to be able to grasp certain concepts in the medical world, because sometimes this person has diabetes, he has to be on insulin. I learned insulin way back in the SS and what insulin does, and all those other things. So look, your education can never be wasted, or it can never be wasted. It will help you execute your goals and career ambitions. And now, I don't know whether to do a PhD, read law, do something else, but the master's, the stress
Wow, I'm loving this conversation. John, you spoke about entrepreneurship and networking. Can we say entrepreneurship goes hand in hand with networking? How important is our networking base?
I classify myself as second generation entrepreneur. My dad started a medical clinic in 1981. Over the past 6 years, I've been running the clinic. I started the ALE Consult, which is the Human Capital Development Organization, and then also African Chamber for Youth Development. So those ones, that context, you can call me a first generation entrepreneur, right? But question, I think that the networks you build is very critical, not just for entrepreneurship, but even for your professional development and our growth. I didn't start as an entrepreneur. After the university, I did my national service as a teacher. I went back to do my master's in communication studies. I worked with Joy FM, British High Commission, Invest in Africa, TV3. I started the A-League Consult and then the African Chamber for Youth Development. And I can tell you that the network that I had built along my career journey, along my education, my schooling, all of them came into play. For example, when I was recruited to work with Joy FM as a producer on the Super Morning Show, at that time, Kojo Oponkrumah was the show host, now the Minister for Housing. Now, Kojo Oponkrumah was a senior 1 year ahead of me in Pope John's. It had nothing to do with my recruitment, but after I'd gotten recruited, I realized I was going to work with Kojo Oponkrumah. We had been in the same school and have that kind of rapport and that relationship was another great thing that also helped me. So you see, right back from the senior secondary school, you meet people along the way. Imagine I had issues with Kojo. Maybe he punished me and I fought with him. Here I find myself working with him. Another interesting thing, I had a colleague at the British High Commission. He's a member of parliament and doing well in politics. I had a sore relationship with him at the British High Commission that was going to affect any future engagement with him as we go on. So as for networking, I think it's very important for your career, not just entrepreneurship.
Thank you, John. Entrepreneurship comes with overcoming challenges. How did you stay motivated during those early days?
Right. Entrepreneurship is difficult. When you talk about entrepreneurship, people think about chilling in Manhattan.
Right.
It goes beyond that way. Just a few people pass that threshold. People are talking of the Indian billionaire that did the wedding, and people are imagining, hey, entrepreneur, then I wonder, are you kidding? Challenges, yes, I admit there were challenges, but for my career start, almost every job I did, I found a lot of challenges. And in overcoming those challenges was building that inner tenacity in me. It was building in me that kind of resilience. It was building the power to persevere. And all that has accumulated or culminated in me having that strong resolve that no matter the difficulties, I will always go through it and come out a better person. One of the reasons why I was not able to get on exactly at 3:30, I was speaking to my head of administration from the clinic, Accra today, but the clinic worked today in Koforidua. Okay. And the way we have to discuss and deal with. So look, entrepreneurship, there are always challenges. Sometimes you think you have overcome all challenges, then one comes to hit you, boom, and you find yourself stranded with every career. Imagine several weeks ago, a power cable cut affected the internet. Imagine you are the head of engineering for an IT this mess. You need to stand up and then you need to be able to deliver. So I think that as for challenges, it is not just endemic in entrepreneurship, but it is heightened, I should say. But in every profession, there will always be challenges and you should be ready to embrace challenges. Some people think that they are running away from their challenges when they decide to go into the corporate world, trying to avoid entrepreneurship everywhere. But look, you get there and realize that there are also difficult challenges. We just have to be ready to work.
John, you have extensive with young people. What do you believe are the most significant challenges facing Ghanaian youth today?
The first thing I'll talk about is a mindset problem. There are a lot of challenges that, in my opinion, has to do with the way we think and sometimes the lens through which we view things. Right. I have worked with a lot of young people. Well, some of the things I do, including recruitment, sometimes people who are competent on paper, they have the wrong mindset. Some have low confidence. Realize that some of them, so many things that has to do with your ability to psych yourself and resolve that no matter what, you are going to rise a better person. The number one challenge is not education. There are a lot of educated people in Ghana. There are a lot of them outside, done a number of courses, and they have come back to the system. But it is about mindset. That's where the problem is. Especially those who've been able to go to school. When they come back for work, they are only thinking about the formal sector. I've said it severally. It's not just about a white-collar job. It's not just about putting on a tie and a jacket and going to work. But it is about making the best out of every opportunity. So if somebody has a shop and needs an accountant, you don't tell me that, oh, you are waiting to get an accountant job in a bank before you apply yourself to it. Right from that shop, you learn a lot that can prepare you for all lies ahead. The mindset is a challenge. It's a big problem. We're working using the African Chamber for Youth Development.
Right.
To help people get that right mindset in. All right. The other challenge that I have for when it comes to young people too is that sometimes we are copy too much. We copy and paste everywhere. Facebook is monetizing. Everybody was talking about it. The content you don't even have on your page. Where from the so
exactly.
They're going to engineering. I also want to do engineering. This one did this, and they all are copying and they're not being themselves. When young people to understand it is okay to be abnormal. If everybody in your class went in a different direction, decide to go because you know what you want to achieve. That copy and paste mindset, I think we need to change. If you go to TikTok, everybody's following a particular line. If you go to a chat, everybody's following a particular line. So people be authentic. I face challenges because people tell me, John, your Facebook, Instagram, your LinkedIn, you're always encouraging people. You are sharing that. Actually, why don't you do comedy skit and all that? I have a bit of drama in me, but it's difficult. You may be tempted to fit into a particular way. I remember one drama at a church I attended. One of the leaders saw me and said, John, forget about that course. Comedy is your thing. People have to be unique with encourage young people to do that. Most young people in Ghana have the entitlement mentality. He's my uncle, so he has to give me this. Or he's my friend, politician now, he has to give me this contract. That entitlement mentality is stopping people from doing what they have to do. In my work as a CEO of the clinic, gestures I do for my team members, some of them think they deserve it, they have to get it. But I'm like, look, you have to be grateful for the little you have and you're willing to go the extra mile to make things work. That exaggerated sense of entitlement is causing a lot of havoc among young people. Your dad has done well, taking you to school, and you are now still on your dad and you want to travel outside Ghana. Your dad can find about $50,000 or $50,000 just because your friends are all jackpying and you want to also jackpot. So that sense of entitlement, I deserve it, I need to get it. If I don't get it, and that is where the problems emanate from. We need to get ourselves off that kind of mentality. So because you went to the university, it doesn't mean that you have to get a job at a top-notch organization. You can, no two ways about it, but it's not for everyone. There are people that they are career tenured, something like that. That sense of entitlement creating problems. The number of unemployed people, some of them are unemployed by choice because they've had opportunities. The money is too small. I want to live in the house for 6 years, and they always say the money is too small. But you need to start somewhere. One thing leads to another, and you're able to make progress. That exaggerated sense of entitlement is another challenge we have to overcome to make progress.
Significant challenges, John. Do you think young people in Ghana are able to find their purpose? If so, how can one find his or her purpose?
Okay. Usually, sometimes when some of us talk about purpose, people think that it is abstract, but it's very important. It's important to identify your purpose. Sometimes people think purpose is your job, or it may not always be the same. It's just a few people, in my opinion, who are aligned like that their purpose fits perfectly into what they are doing. You need to identify your strengths. You need to identify your skills that comes to you naturally. You need to identify the talents that comes to you naturally. Those things are. But again, also unfortunately, our education setup, especially in this part of our world, doesn't allow people to grow their strengths along the talents that they have, and there are a lot of biased thinking in the system. So, for example, young age, the thinking is that once you're a good footballer, you don't need education, play until you get a chance to play in Madrid or somewhere else. But it doesn't mean that the fact that you are a skilled footballer doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to school. My late dad of blessed memory was an athletic person. Was a footballer. He also did some athletics and was able to carry all these things through whilst he was in university, in medical school. It is important for people to separate the two. You shouldn't think that if you're good at trading and selling, so you decide that, okay, then that's all that I have to do. You can add value and do more with it. But for me, one of the key things that helps people identify their purposes is to look at what comes naturally. Look at what it is that you're able to do easily. Look at what it is that if they wake you up from bed at 2 a.m. without struggle, you'll be able to do it. Let me give you an example. This interview, I didn't get any pre-questions. I'm just flowing.
And I'm enjoying it.
For live TV, and for live TV, sometimes you have to go off script in order to make your audiences engage. It is not everything that you can read from your teleprompter and all that, So sometimes when you're able to identify things you like to do naturally and add value through education, it consolidates the purpose, and then you're able to make money out of your purpose. Because in pursuing their purposes, we're not too much thinking about money. But I think that's a very important conversation. I had the opportunity to raise some people who science, and I was telling them you should have a high sense of commercial awareness. It's not just about putting positive and negative together, a robot. You should look at commercializing what I can do, not just these things, to be able to earn some revenue or get some living for myself. Those things are very important. All right. So I think that If you're able to identify what comes to you easily, there are things that your friends, when they think about that thing, they think about you. If you need somebody to do a presentation, that comes to me naturally. Even amongst ourselves, we want somebody to do something to do with machines or equipment. The name pops up. And for the person is not even an engineer. He's not going to
Right.
but there are some things that comes to people naturally that they have worked a bit on it and they're able to do a lot with it. Purpose is very important. But when you identify your purpose, it's not the end. You need to add, improve, effective. You need to become one of the best in a particular area and think about commercialization. Leverage your purpose to earn a living. Go to the market and say, hey, I'm a great speaker. Can I have a box of sardines for the way? You have to pay.
Sure.
I think that we have to be able to have this conversation that allows people to think that having your purpose or discovering your purpose is not enough. You need to add value to it. After adding value and being the best in it, you need to look at ways where you can earn revenue for it. All right. Sometimes I think singers and musicians, and I'm amazed. This Indian billionaire that did the work, some African artists are here want to perform there. I'm like, Charlie. So when? But
Gavenda.
and they are leveraging talents and they are making money. They have strict commercialization rules.
Sure.
If you need to come and perform for you, down payment of let's say $1,000. You need to give me this and do that. When some of us are called to bring our skills to the table, we're even begging people to give us opportunity. How dare you go and say that you want to charge? But we need to it should be actively commercialized. So like this conversation, I could decide that, madam, your bill is $1,000. If you can't pay, forget about it. Getting to that level, you can
Wonderful, John. Thank you. As a leader involved in youth empowerment through the African Chamber for Youth Development, I would like us to define and talk about your leadership style.
Yes, it is something I constantly think about. My friends tell me, John, your nature, we don't think you can do business. Maybe go into ministry, become a pastor, soft-spoken, kind heart, always give the benefit of the doubt. But my business is that those things don't help you succeed in business. You have to be harsh. Wow. You insult them. My leadership style is more of dialoguing. I want you to see reason in what you are doing. And I expect you to up your ability to reason in a particular way. For example, there was somebody who was supposed to work at the clinic at a particular time. We agreed on everything. Then the very last minute, the person called to cancel that he has another program somewhere. Head of administration called me. I called directly. I'm like, boss, put yourself in our shoes. We agreed this is what we're going to do. And last minute, you want us to cancel, no problem, but find us a replacement. Put in mechanisms to ensure that there's somebody who will step in your stead and be able to deliver. Because at the end of the day, the clinic will have to function. Ultimately, it has to happen. So that was one way I could have voted. If you don't know and don't step there, you are sacked. But at the end of the day, the person later got back to me and said, okay, boss, I'll be there. I'll come and work. That's my approach. I need to change. A lot of people, when you give them a mile, they take like 10,000 miles. Employees don't apply themselves to what the employers are going through. You have to put yourself in the shoes of your employers. If I say come to work at 8 o'clock,
I'll be there on time.
So do you want me to go back to the table and every day you come after 8? Is that what people come to work early? But I ask myself, you are adults, you are mature. Does it have to get to that stage? Does it always have to be a stick? Sometimes it can be a carrot, something to motivate, but you have to apply the stick. People respect the stick more than the carrot. It is something I keep thinking about. Naturally, that is my style. I'm hoping I'll prove to my friends and team members who think that my nature, I will not be able to do business and succeed. I want to succeed so they can look. John has a different style to leadership, but he's been able to run this enterprise. He's been able to grow this enterprise to this level remarkably well. So I think that'll be a huge statement, and I'm really that level.
So, John, looking ahead, what are your long-term goals for your professional and personal life? How do you envision your impact?
Great. I think for every single thing in my career, it has to carry that long-term effect, even beyond my living today. I have students who are medical doctors. I have students I taught who are professors. I have students I taught who are doing very well for themselves. And for me, that gives me a lot of encouragement. And for the rest of the years ahead of me is to continually make that impact to the point where people can say, because of John Appiah, this is how far I have come. It may not be by financial support, but sometimes a word of encouragement. Sometimes by helping them develop a particular skill, by helping them to be able to add value to themselves. Ultimately, these people will continue your legacy. The work I'm doing with the clinic, I want to ensure my dad's legacy never dies. He started the clinic in 1981, far older than I am, but I want to move to a very great stage where everybody that hears of it will really know that, yes, this is a great clinic. And if you notice very well, the European countries, the Indian countries, Asian countries, multi-generational business beyond one generation. In Ghana, if we're able to develop generational business that goes beyond just the first generation, because unfortunately, some businesses, once the entrepreneur dies, once the main person behind it dies, everything comes to a halt. But I am trying to do my best with the clinic to leave that legacy or make that statement that, yes, we can grow our businesses beyond one generation. It is all about empowering people. It is all about the young African position themselves strategically to do something with themselves. I'll be happy if in some few years to come, we'll get the first ever Ghanaian director for World Bank or African Development Bank. And I was part of the African Chamber for Youth Development. I picked skills from there, one with a clinic to build that legacy that will not only healing to people, but also create employment for people and create business opportunity for other business people, because it's a whole chain, it's an ecosystem. So if we're able to do very well, it's a spillover effect, and it can affect not just the people you're working with, but the people you do business with. Secondly, for the African Chamber for Development, we want to grow beyond just Ghana. I've had some encounter or engagement with people in Nigeria and Sierra Leone, but I'm looking forward to consolidating the work that I'm doing. Currently, I am self-funding, but I'm looking for donor support to expand. It's about funding to be able to ensure we're able to amplify. And I'm always of the opinion that I need to do something for myself first as evidence to show that this is what I'm able to do with my resources. So if you're coming to inject capital into it, we're going to amplify what it is that we're going to do. And I'm not following, or I'm not going after the money part, but it's more about the impact, because at the end of the day, I have living examples of people that have benefited from our engagement. The ALE consult as well, I want to grow a homegrown business that is into human capital development, empowering people, helping people develop their skills, training, capacity building, so that when you think of capacity building and training in Ghana, you should think of the ALE Consult. It will be a gathering of several Ghanaian consultants from elsewhere. That's what I look forward to doing. In my career, for example, I've worked for Ghanaian companies, I work for international companies, and I've noticed that international companies are keen on human capital development. But for many businesses, the bottom line is the money. You can work for them 10 years and there'll be no training. But foreign companies don't work like that. I'm trying to help change that narrative so that even the local business will realize that it is worth investing in training and capacity building and skills enhancement. At the end of the day, it comes back to help what it is that you're doing.
Thank you so much, John. Incredible journey and insights today. I appreciate it.